I'm Kathleen Dean Moore here on Earth Day 2017. Happy Earth Day. I am the author of a number of books, mostly creative nonfiction about our relation to this wet and wild and wonderful world. My new book, however, is a novel, Piano Tide, which talks about a community's spectacular and transformative act of resistance to the plunder of the planet in their tiny community. I also am the writer this year of Great Tide Rising Toward Clarity and Moral Courage in a Time of Planetary Change. This is using stories and reflections to call people to action to address the emergencies that we face, the extinction crisis, the global warming, the global injustice that these are all causing. My view is that writers have been given a number of gifts that make them particularly suited for the work of saving the world, and that not only are they called to this, but that the fact that they have been given these gifts makes them particularly suited to taking action. So I talk about today the gift of voices. We have platforms, we have voices. We can raise our voices in defense of the earth. We have a sense of wonder. We can awaken people's eyes to the splendor of this planet, knowing that if we understand how spectacular and contingent and imperiled it is, that people then will respond with their hearts and minds. Third, I call attention to people's imaginations. Writers have this great gift of imagination so that they can think hard, not about the catastrophe, not writing about apocalypse, but that they can write about the recreation of this world in ways that are sustainable and livable and beautiful and just. The fourth thing is this open-hearted love for the world. Writers are trained to, and by their nature, pay attention with an open heart. They love people, they love stories, they love the world around them. And so this love, the claim I make, is that loving isn't a kind of la-di-da, certainly not anymore. That loving has a moral claim on you, and if you love something, part of what that means is that you are called to its defense. So this splendid love that writers have for the world that they're writing about is actually imposing a moral obligation on them to engage in helping to keep it whole and resilient and well and thriving. I'm here for the Terroir Writing Conference here in McMinnville, Oregon. I was invited to do the keynote address by an old friend, a dear friend named Barbara Drake, who is a poet. She has heard me speak, and she thought that since this was an Earth Day celebration, that maybe they needed a writer who was actually writing about the world, its perils, its glories. So it's wonderful to be here. I think there are about 120 of us writers here, and we are, all of us, engaged in trying to do the best we can. And so we are learning, we are sharing, we are writing actually today, all day, in this community of writers.
And tell our audience, if time machines showed up and you were able to step into it and go to any time and any place, and then you had 5 seconds, you step out and impart some kind of knowledge or observation, where would you go? What would you say, and who would you say it to once you arrived?
Oh, given the nature of my work, I don't need to go back very far. I guess I'd like to go back to 1970, which is the time when ExxonMobil scientists were making clear to the people leading that company that their activities with the petrochemical industry were going to destroy the life-supporting systems of the earth. I would like to talk to everyone. Is that part of what I might do? I'd like to address them, and what I would say is it's wrong to wreck the world. We have a moral obligation to our children, we have a moral obligation to the planet itself, we have a moral obligation to future generations of all beings to save a planet that sustains human life, and that the work of destroying it is unutterably wrong, that we very quickly need to change our way of life, change our way of powering ourselves so that we can live in a beautiful place, a quieter place, a place that can last forever.
Hi, my name's Andrea Stolowitz, and I'm here at the Terroir Writing Festival in McMinnville, Oregon. I found out about the Terroir Festival because another playwright I know, Ellen Lewis, who is local to this area, was originally asked to do a workshop and she couldn't do it, so she asked me to do it, and I said, this is so wonderful because I have a new play that takes place in Oregon wine country, and it's actually about terroir. So the whole topic of terroir and writing is really, at the moment, very interesting to me, particularly with what's going on in Oregon. Today I gave a workshop on playwriting. It was an hour long, very exciting. We spent the first half an hour looking at a play called Teeth by Tina Howe, which uses several elements of drama that we were able to illustrate. One of my favorites in the play is song. And then we did a writing exercise for the other half an hour in which students were asked to pursue these elements that they'd learned in the first half and put them in a scene in the second half. We were very terroir in that our scene was actually set in the field outside the classroom where we could all look upon it. So it is very connected to the writing for today. What I love about this festival, what I enjoyed so much about my seminar that I gave, was the participants. I found it so exciting to be here in a more rural part of Oregon, not Portland, and have such excitement about writing and about playwriting. And it just makes me really feel excited for the future of art in this area, for art in our country, in this moment of underfunding art. It's so important to me that writing and visual arts and theater is seen and brought into the community, and this festival is doing exactly that.
Hi, I'm Sean Davis, and I'm happy to be here at the Terroir Writing Festival, 8th one. It's amazing. It's really great to be here. I write nonfiction and some fiction. I'm here because I'm teaching a class called Writing Through Trauma to help other people write through their traumas. And I found out through a friend, Lydia Yuknovich was supposed to be the keynote speaker here, and I guess she couldn't make it because of her book was coming out. And so I was happy to step in, and I'm really happy to be here. I wanted to speak a little bit about art. I believe that art saves our lives. I know it saved my life. After leaving the military, I was critically injured in an ambush in Iraq. And when I was able to walk again, I went to Hurricane Katrina cleanup in New Orleans. And when I came back from that, I was wrecked, and I had a hard time transitioning back into the real world. But it was art that saved me, writing about it. And painting, and I've been doing both since. And I love to share that with other people and see when it clicks with them and how it changes their lives. And I work with so many other different writers and artists in the Portland area and in Oregon and across the country as well. So I founded Post 134 Press, and what we do is I facilitate a monthly poetry group with veterans and family members of veterans. It's a 6-month group. We meet once a month. And then at the end of the 6 months, we start submitting stories and put together an anthology. This year we'll be on our 5th anthology, and we do a lot of readings around the Portland area. I also teach different places, and again, I paint. Later today, I have a gallery show at Lane Gallery in Northwest Portland. And then tonight, I'm speaking at a fundraiser to raise money for the local Portland schools. But later on, in June, I go and I teach at the William Joyner Institute for the Study of War and Social Consequence. And I teach with the warrior writers there, other veterans who get together and try to write through their trauma. I also always love to teach children and work with children. Like I said, tonight I do have a speak at a fundraiser to raise money for Portland schools. Every year I go speak at Catlin Gables and read to those children as well. I substitute sometimes at different private schools for creative writing classes just to get in there and to inspire kids. When I was in 5th grade, I won a Young Writers Award, and that was the only award I've ever won for my writing, but it was enough, and it inspired me to be a writer and want to be a writer for the rest of my life. If I could do that for another kid, it's an amazing thing. I also try to fight for what's right. Just because my military service is done doesn't mean that I'm done serving our country. I go and I lobby. I go to Washington, D.C. with votevets.org, and I talk to our lawmakers about saving public lands, the Oregon Wildlands Act, or trying to turn the Oahe Canyonlands into a monument. This year, we went to fight against the GOP's healthcare bill and to stop the privatization of the VA, and we are pretty successful in both counts. I'm involved in our community all around.
John, if a time machine shows up and you can step into it and go anywhere, anytime, any place, and step out and give 5 seconds of advice or some kind of comment, where would you go, when would you go, and who would you talk to, and what would you say?
That is an amazing question. You know, that's really difficult because, you know, I've been to a revolution, I've been to a war, I've been to the hurricane cleanup in New Orleans. I've been through a lot of trauma, and you're like, well, what if you could do something to change all that? But the honest truth is I wouldn't have changed any of it. So if I can get into a time machine, I would go to the future, and I would get out and just say, hey, we're trying. We tried really hard. You know, I'd see what would happen. Hopefully we turned around our environmental policies and we actually made it a better place to live.
Hi, I'm Chip McGregor, president of McGregor Literary. I was speaking here at the Terroir Festival. They had called me a couple of times to ask if I would come and talk about traditional publishing. I used to be publisher at Time Warner, and of course I've been an agent for going on 20 years now, and so they wanted me to come just to talk to people. We talked a little about author branding, we answered questions, we talked about agents and publishing and writers' choices and things like that. You know, this is the kind of festival that I really believe in. I enjoy coming to these because I get a chance to sit down with writers who just want basic information and get their questions answered. Sometimes publishing, especially book publishing, my side of it, can be a bit mysterious. People aren't sure where to go. They aren't sure what sources to listen to. And a lot of people offering opinions sometimes, like online, maybe don't have all the experience that they need. And so I like coming here, being able to sit down, be face-to-face with people, listen to people's book ideas, answer their questions, talk about it. This is one of those avenues where a new writer can come and get good information from people. Anyway, I had a great time being here.
Hi, I'm Steve Dean. I'm a longtime Metro columnist at The Oregonian, also an author of a history of comics and a graphic novel called Oil and Water. And I came to Terroir today to sort of talk about comics and books, graphic novels that you may have never experienced. There is so much going on in the medium. Portland is sort of the center of the comic universe these days, with companies like Image and Dark Horse and Oni parked there, headquartered there. And I want to talk to people about beyond mainstream comics, beyond sort of these dead ideas that are made into countless highly grossing movies, are extraordinary stories in comic book form. Alison Bechdel's Fun Home, Royden Lepp's Rust, books that are exquisite introductions to the graphic arts. You know, I was invited at Terroir by Emily Grosvenor, who I met when I came down and talked to her class in McMinnville. She's extraordinary. The energy she brings to this creative writing festival is really cool. So it's been fun to watch the festival evolve. It was an extraordinary opportunity to be a part of it. You know, I guess one final thought, it's sort of too late now to be involved in the 8th annual festival, but I would really encourage you to, if you're interested in writing, if you love the medium, if you have a story to tell, if you have a memoir you need to write, if you have a revenge fantasy to get off your chest, whatever it is, extraordinary opportunities here, workshops, and people who care, who just care so much about writing, that I think you will feel like you're among friends.
Hi, I'm Michael McGregor, Michael N. McGregor, as I go by as a writer. I am a professor at Portland State University, and I'm here at the Terroir Creative Writing Festival. I just did a workshop on getting down to the truly personal and personal essay and memoir, in which I talked about some of the ways in which someone can get to the true, authentic story that he or she has to tell, and we did some exercises that were designed to really get us past the defenses that we have and the hesitations and the things that we often settle for that aren't quite down at that true bedrock level of honesty. So I'm at the Terroir Festival because I know Lisa Olin Harris and Lynn Otto, and they invited me. Both of them are writers that I have worked with before and whose work I really respect, and I was pleased to be able to come out here and work with the writers in this particular area, being a Portland-based writer and not often enough getting down here to wine country. I write and teach in both personal essay and memoir because I feel like that we all have stories to tell. And I have my own stories, things that bubble up at night and things that come to me as I'm trying to figure out my own life and how I feel about life in general and relationships and such. And I find that personal writing of this kind is a way, if it doesn't become self-indulgent, that you can really puzzle through who you are as a person and what the world is like and how it comes at you. If I could go back to any place and time and speak to someone for 5 seconds, I would go to when my mother was a little girl and tell her life's going to be great and beautiful and you can do whatever you want to do.
Hi, I'm C.MORGAN Kennedy. I'm at Terroir this year. I have such a hard time saying that. But anyhow, it's a great writing conference and I highly recommend you come out, especially because you have such a diverse group of presenters and an awesome group and community of writers. This year, my presentation was on world building, and I talked about how you can use your world building as in some of your marketing as a writer. It was a great group. And we talked about specific popular fiction where I read sections on world building to help illustrate some of the points that I was trying to hit home in my presentation. I love doing art and I love doing scrapbooking, so I actually make artistic journals and I showcased one of those during the pre-zo. So I found out about Terroir. Actually, Lisa contacted me. I'm the VP of Communications for Rose City Romance Writers. And last year she reached out because she wanted to do a panel on romance in the romance industry. So a group of us came out and presented as part of a panel. And during the course of talking about that panel, I mentioned to her that I also do a presentation on marketing. I have a book titled Author Marketing 101, shameless plug. And, and I also do a presentation on world building. And she asked me to come back this year and present my world building class. I think you should consider coming to Terroir because it proves the point that Oregon is full of arts communities, and specifically the writing and literary community isn't limited to just Portland. There's a thriving community here in McMinnville, as well as other areas of Oregon. So check it out, find local festivals, support local, buy local, and come out and learn something new. Maybe some things that you didn't expect.
So a time machine shows up, you can step into it, go anywhere, any place, anytime. You have to step out and you have 5 seconds to say something to somebody somewhere. Where would you go? When would you go? Who is it? And what would you tell them?
I would go back in time and I would visit my mom when she was 6 years old. And my mom grew up on a very dirt poor farm in Oklahoma. And as a 6-year-old, she was responsible for her younger siblings. Her parents were migrant workers, and her father, my grandfather, was an abusive alcoholic. And I would hug her and I would tell her that it will get better and she will be happy.
Hi, I'm Pat Angland. I'm here as part of the planning committee for the Terroir Creative Writing Festival, held this year at Chemeketa on Earth Day. This year, we're very happy to have a lot of interesting sponsors. Some of them we have every year, luckily, and some are new this year. Every year we have Chemeketa, and they donate this wonderful facility to us and lots of staff to help us. Additionally, this year we have the Yamhill Watershed Stewardship Fund. They were able to provide us through a grant which helped us pay for a couple of our green speakers for Earth Day, Kathleen Dean Moore and Harry Fuller, and we really appreciate that. We every year get money from the English department and the Nicholson Library at Linfield College. This year we had some private donations from Barbara Drake, Steve Rupp, and the McMinnville Eye Clinic. We also had in-kind donations, and those are pretty standard too, from Roth's, Gail Watson Printing, Blue Hour Press, and Hazelden. We want to thank also our on-site bookstore, Scylla at 3rd Street Books. What is a town without a bookstore?
Hi, my name is Dave King, and I have been at the 2017 Terroir all day. I was here at 8 o'clock and listened to the keynote speaker. She was fabulous. And I attended several of the workshops today, and I think this was a great, one of the best that I've been to. And I just got back from the 2-hour workshop with Sean Davis, who was doing a trauma survivor workshop on how to attack a memoir if you're struggling with that. I'm basically a fiction writer. I'm struggling through a novel, and I have written several short pieces and have been rewarded with the pleasure of having 2 pieces recently published, which has really been a big thrill for me. But I think this terroir in this little town of McMinnville and in this county of Yamhill is really, it's been very, very well received, and I think rightfully so. The organizers put a lot of work into it. There's a lot of great workshops. One thing I would like to see, though, is more workshops and more speakers devoted to my personal favorite fiction genre. But be that as it may, I did get a lot out of this show, and thank you for interviewing me.
Hi, my name is Alina, and I'm a 16 years old exchange student from Germany, and today I'm here at the Terroir Writing Festival. I heard about this from one of the speakers, Emily Grosvenor, because she is also my area rep, which means that she just helps me with everything I do here. And I really like this day. I was looking forward to it. I also got the great opportunity to get a scholarship to be here today. I really enjoyed being here. I learned a lot, met a lot of great people, and I definitely have to read a lot of books over the next month. I went in the morning. At first there was a keynote speaker. Her name was Kathleen Dean Moore. She talked a lot about her books, and it was beautiful. She is really engaged in saving the environment and climate change, which I think is a big issue right now. I'm going to read her books. I already decided that this morning. Then I went in the morning workshops. The first one I went to was the one from Emily. It was about how you write your memoirs. And the other one was how an author brands themselves with Chip McGregor. And after lunch, the other keynote speaker, Steve Doohan, he talked a lot about comics and graphic novels, which I thought was really exciting, and how they came to life, and about different techniques. Really super exciting. And then I went and to the workshop that talked about trauma writing, which I thought was really interesting. Things Sean talked about were really deep, and the way he went through his emotion. I think it's really great that he shared what he really experienced with us. You should definitely go. Just go open-minded. You gotta meet a lot of great people, a lot of authors. I had the time of my life. I came here, I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. I know nobody here, I know one person. I ended up talking with a lot of different people about all kinds of stuff. I learned a lot about writing, and I can just say I encourage everybody to come, especially students that are interested in this kind of stuff, because you can learn a lot from people who know what they're doing.
My name is Mary Jane Strand, and I'm at the Terroir Writing Festival. I heard about it through my writing group, the Working Draft Writers Workshop. I've been here all day. I've listened to both of the keynote speakers, and I've listened to Michael McGregor, who was an excellent speaker. He was talking about memoirs. This is my first year at the festival, and the one thing I noticed about this place is there are all kinds of writers some of the most interesting people in the world, and we are all so supportive of each other, and it's really fun to listen to everybody's
A
stories.
time machine shows up. You can go anywhere, anytime, any place, and talk to anyone, but you only have 5 seconds. Where would you go? When would you go? Who would you talk to? And what would you tell that person?
I would go back to high school to myself in my English class where I didn't know that I could even write. My teacher was so encouraging, and after being at this workshop, I realized we are all writers, and there is so much you can do with writing. You can go into the future, go into the past, and the possibilities are endless.